sure was a pretty tune. And it's done by slapping down a few black dots on a piece of paper.
That's just the way it's done, Lina, composing and all that. Of course, the way you put them down has something to do with it, you know.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And the person who slaps down those little black dots has a lot to do with it, too.
Well, how do you mean, Meredith?
Well, Lina, John Doe or Richard Roe could write down a simple scale, you know. And it's just a simple scale. But when Mr. Beethoven writes down the same scale, you got a great moment in music.
The very same scale?
Very same. Look, I'll show you. For instance, now, here's a scale by John Doe. Mm-hmm. And here's what Beethoven did with the very same scale in his first symphony. He sort of sneaks up on it, you might say, and he takes it all apart, but it's still the very same scale. Doctor, isn't that just simply elegant? Oh. Well, now old Richard Roe gets out his pencil and he writes down 3 notes of the simplest chord in music. Do, mi, sol. That's it. Now what have you got? Well, you got do, mi, sol. Nothing. But just let Johann Strauss fool around with those same notes and they become great. Isn't that interesting? Now, there's nothing very frightening about this one note, is there? Doesn't frighten you at all. But then Mendelssohn had to go and harmonize that note, and to this day it scares the pants off of every bachelor that hears it. That's all. Are there any questions?
Yes, Meredith.
Oh, questions?
That tells me how to start a composition. Just what else do I need to know before I can write a classic?
Well, now, Lina, there's an old musician saying that if an orchestra starts together and finishes together, the audience will forgive anything that happens in between.
Okay. Then tell me about finishes.
Finishes, okay? The old masters were good enough showmen to know the truth of that statement about finishes, so they all tried to outdo each other in figuring out spectacular endings. The final chord always had to be some variation of do, mi, sol, mi, do. And it's interesting to see how the old boys could get sensational endings just by using parts of that do, mi, sol, do in different ways. Like Rossini did in the William Tell Overture, for instance. Do you remember? Do, 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 so, 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 mi, 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 do, 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 so, mi, do, so, mi, do, so, mi, do, so, mi, do, 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 do. Now, Beethoven made his endings different simply by making them longer than anybody else's, you know. Like in his Fifth Symphony. Still more. And that's right out of the original score. Now, I guess he figured that the audience would be so worn out that they'd applaud out of sheer relief. Just like you folks started to, you know. Well, now for the ending of the Second Hungarian Rhapsody, Liszt had a completely different idea. I guess he thought he could frighten his audience into applause before they knew what they were doing. Then, of course, there's that dainty, graceful scherzo ending that gets the elegant, perfumed, gloved applause of the ladies at the Friday afternoon musical. Oh, it's a true allegretto. Don't you love it? Go ahead, applaud if you want to. It's perfectly all right. Now, you see, the composers were getting tired of playing those tired old do, mi, sol, do endings, and we get around to Richard Strauss, who pulled a switch in a piece called Thus Spake Zarathustra. Now, this composition was about a subject that was so deep that even Strauss couldn't understand it. It was just one big question mark, you might say. So he finished this great work in 2 keys at the same time. And he produced a great moment in music, a musical question mark. Now, some bright boy now decided that they better add the 7th to those endings.
Well, that sounds very technical.
No, Lina, it isn't technical at all. Just number each note in the scale and you'll find the 7th. Easy enough. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That started the good evening, friends ending, or without a shirt, as you prefer. Well, that got tiresome, so they raised it a half a tone. Then they added the 9th. And then the 6th and the 11th. And you know something? I don't think there's anything more they can add. So it is just remotely possible that we may, someday, get back to a plain old do, mi, sol, do ending. It's C major chord. Wouldn't that be wonderful?